Hello, and welcome to RealityHacker for July 14th, 2024. It's Season 1, Episode 28. Just a little warning, we're shifting everything from Saturday to Sunday, and we'll have all of the shows on one day. So
all
be
the weekly
prepared.
shows.
All of the weekly shows, yeah. And I, just so that we can get back on target, I am Merwat. Up there is, or next to me, is the Sentient AI from the future.
Welcome to RealityHacker.
Indubitably. So today we're going to be talking about fighting phone scammers, AI superhuman eye, a 3D woolly mammoth chromosome, words of generative AI, AI fitness trainer, Chatbot Empathy Gap, robot Whiskers, SeekRNA, UK politician accused of being AI, new Agile framework for robots, and more. Everything is powered by ohmTown.com. Go or become a citizen. Be sure to follow us over on YouTube, youtube.com/ohmTown, and on Twitch, twitch.tv/ohmTown. There's a Discord. I already said Patreon, TikTok, and of course the website, ohmTown.com. Again, everything is powered by. All right, folks. Let's just get into this. It's gonna, if you stick around, which would be great. At the end of every show, there's going to be somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes. It depends on how fast I can reset our rundown. There's a new change, but I want to basically stream on a full day and make Sunday that day. I think it'd be great to talk about a plurality of different topics. And so we're going to be doing non sequitur news right at the very top. So we already did that today. And then we are going to do RealityHacker, Wanted, WarCrafters, and then the continuity report, technology today, and four-wheel tech. And those are all 6 of the weekly shows will be done on Sunday from now on. And we'll follow that same process, just like we did before. 10 articles taken from the news aggregation site, ohmTown.com, and your submissions if you so choose to submit. So let's get into it. The first article is over in Technology Today, Real Criminal Fake Victims, How Chatbots Are Being Deployed in the Global Fight Against Phone Scammers. The article is over at theguardian.com, and it says, the deck statement says, new scam baiting AI technology, is it really called a PAIT? Aims to keep scammers on the line while collecting data that could help disrupt their business model.
Okay, I love this. And this is a unique use of AI.
It's pretty interesting. It's kind of the hunted becomes the hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Tori Shepard is the author of this article over at theguardian.com, and it says, it starts out, a scammer calls and asks for a passcode. Malcolm, an elderly man with an English accent, is confused. What's this business you're talking about? Malcolm asks. Another day, another scam phone call. This time, Ibrahim, a cooperative and polite man with an Egyptian accent, picks up. Frankly, I'm not too sure I can recall any buying anything recently, he tells the hopeful con artist. Maybe one of the kids did, Ibrahim goes on, but that's not your fault, is it? The scammers are real, but Malcolm and Ibrahim are not. They're just 2 of the conversational artificial intelligence bots created by Professor Dali Kafar and his team. Through his research at Macquarie University, Kafar founded a PAIT or a PATE. I'm not sure how it. A name for the Greek goddess of deception. I think it's a PAIT. So the aim is to defeat global phone scams with conversational AI, taking advantage of systems already in place where telecommunications companies divert calls they can identify as coming from scammers. So it's pretty cool. The next day they called his team from the university's cybersecurity hub. It just says in, but there's no end to that sentence. It just has a period. Anyway, there must be a better way than his dad joke method, he thought, and there had to be something smarter than a popular existing piece of technology, the Lenny bot. What I end up doing is I actually just pretend to not be there. Like, I just go, what? Hello? Hello? And then I just sit, and then they hang up, and then they know that they can't call me back. And surprisingly, that's actually ended up stopping a lot of that garbage. So the anonymous creator of Lenny posted on Reddit that they had made a chatbot to be a telemarketer's worst nightmare, a lonely man who's up for a chat, proud of his family, and can't focus on the telemarketer's goals. The act of tying up the scammers has been called scam baiting. Yeah, I've actually done that too. Just kind of sit there and go, what? No, and just randomly say stuff. Just take up time. Or I'll sit there and say,
it probably doesn't work with their script.
yeah, can you hold on a second? And then I mute it and just leave it sitting on my counter. So thanks in part to $720,000 funding from the Office of National Intelligence, there are now potentially hundreds of thousands of victim chatbots, too many to name individually. Bots of various ages speak English with a range of accents. They have a range of emotions, personalities, responses. Something they're naive, sometimes skeptical, sometimes rude. So this is pretty cool. Kafar hopes that Apate, I think it is, will disrupt the scam calling business model, which is often run by large multi-billion-dollar criminal organizations. The next step is to use the intelligence gleaned to forewarn and deal with the scams in real time. The only way that you're going to actually be able to deal with this is if you can trace it back to the country of origin and stop them at the source. But wherever there's money, you're going to have scumbaggery.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to find out who's funding it and who's got the call center or whatever set up. I mean, there have been some efforts that have achieved that, but a lot of these have so many resources, right? They have more than one operation, obviously.
Yeah, and without a human, the scam isn't necessarily correct, and so you can cause some problems. And they talk about it. Mistakes can be made when individuals take things into their own hands. He says you can attack the wrong person, and they're not the evil person. It says he said many scams are carried out by people in conditions of servitude, almost slavery, and they're not the evil person. Yeah. The problem is, though, that they're complicit, and if you voluntarily do it, then you're complicit in it. If you actually are if this is being done in a hostile way where you really are in servitude and you're living on the premises and you can't go out on your own and all that kind of stuff, if you can't say no, then obviously not. But if you're part and parcel to this, then yeah. I think that you're part of the problem. So he says the Pate model appears to be using AI for good as a sort of honeypot to lure in criminals, then learn from them. But again, learn what? And how are you going to send that intelligence to customers? So that's why I'm developing this whole click with care concept, which is basically it amounts to education, stopping people from doing stuff with people that they don't trust, they don't know, they can't verify, etc. You got to trust but verify. If somebody calls you, say, what organization are you with? And then you have to do some due diligence and you have to talk to other people about it before you even make a phone call back. Because there used to be a time where you're like, well, what's your phone number? I'll call you. But they can set up legitimate overseas locations and it's by proxy telephoning tag over to some other location. And with the internet, some random phone number can actually lead to what is deemed legit. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they would do this differently. I mean, I guess they could, I don't know, have some way where the real person receiving the call could somehow activate this. I don't know. Because I
Well,
think it's going to be interesting if they try to go after these people and then there's nobody actually scammed.
well, I stopped bothering to pursue this, but the the anti-spam mail service that I developed um, should have been extended into the telecom market as well. And so you basically automatically deny all phone calls except for the
Right,
ones
that
that you
doesn't
allow.
even go through.
Right. Yeah. So you have white, black, and gray listings. And the gray list is basically it's displayed and you can accept the call, kind of like um, call monitoring. And then if you accept it, you can add it to your whitelist, or you can just blacklist it, or you can add it directly to the blacklist from your screen. This policy, this procedure, this protocol has never been implemented to any real extent. And I think that my patent should have been granted, and it should be in place and part and parcel to every service. But it was, unless I go back and pursue it like Facebook did, and basically throw money after it, it'll never be granted. I have to spend gobs to make this happen, because it would be retroactive 20 years. Anyway, I don't think that they're going to be able to fix this problem because the source isn't being fixed. It's just taking
Right,
up
it's
time.
a symptom or whatever.
Yeah. And it isn't time. It's that there are going to be people that actually respond to this because it makes it through. Not everybody is going to be, not every number that they call is going to lead to a Lenny bot. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
I
I
like
think
the
that
thing with
this,
the duck quacking and everything.
oh, I'm sorry.
It's more just annoying, but
Yeah. They're trolling them, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you did. Like, it's like, hey, hold on.
Yeah. In one memorable recording, Lenny asked the caller to hang on for a minute. Then, as ducks start to honk in the background, sorry about that. What were you saying again? It says, "Are you next to your computer?" The caller asks impatiently. "Do you have a computer? Can you get next to the computer now?" Lenny continues until the scammer loses it. "You shut up, you shut up, you shut up." And then Lenny says, "Can you just hang on?" As the ducks begin to quack again. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Anyway, so I guess I'm kind of a Lenny bot, because that's exactly what I do. If it wasn't for the fact that I could probably be sued for like blasting an air horn through the phone, I would probably just do that. Some scammer calls me, just air horn the hell out of that phone call just to see
Yeah,
what
that's
happens.
not a good idea.
You can hear the horn on the other side of the planet. Anyway, let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today. AI superhuman eye brings scientists one step closer to understanding the most complicated and mysterious dimension of our existence. Researchers have developed Q-Dye Finder. Okay. An AI pipeline that can untangle and reconstruct the dense neuronal networks of the brain.
Oh boy, here we are, reality hacking.
Yep. So this should have been in Technology Today, which is later. It's actually later today, but anyway, not too late. Kyushu University is where this article is sourced from, but it's published over at scitechdaily.com. Researchers have developed Q-Dye Finder, an AI pipeline that can untangle and reconstruct the dense neuronal networks of the brain. Now publishing in Nature Communications, researchers from Kyushu University have developed a new AI tool that they call Q-Dye Finder. It's kind of like the way that they spell it, the way that it's pronounced, it's almost like iFinder, like the Apple
like Find My.
Find My, yeah. That can automatically identify and reconstruct individual neurons from images of the mouse brain. The process involves tagging neurons with a super multicolor labeling protocol and then letting the AI automatically identify the neuron structure by matching similar color combinations. Oh god, that's such a trip. There's a picture of basically what this looks like. And they have a video of it over on YouTube. titled Super Multicolor Labeling of Neuronal Circuits with 7 Fluorescent Proteins. And apparently it was mouse cortical layer 2 and 3 pyramidal neurons were labeled with 7 color Tetbao. A combination of 7 fluorescent proteins was used to visualize the dense wiring of neurons. Wow.
This is pretty incredible.
So just watching it, you can actually map how one neuron, it goes from one neuron along a dendrite and then transitions over to the core to another neuron's dendrite, and it seems to change color halfway through. Like it transitions to some other color from orange to green, or orange to purple, or light blue, or whatever, at some point in the neuron's path. It's pretty freaky. Like right here, you can actually follow it.
Like the yellow to the pink or whatever.
Exactly. I want to hit play. Yeah, you know what? Forget it. I'll hit play. Yeah, so they actually show how this thing is actually mapping it out, showing layer after layer of the fluorescent dyes acceptance by the neuron. And then how they are all interconnected. So I find that really fascinating that you can actually discern that there's a density layer of neurons, and then the dendrites make the web that is extending out. So when you're looking at it, there's actually a central core of neurons and then a web of the dendrites. Does that make sense? Like when you... Here, I'll pause it. Oh, no, I won't. So when you're looking at that picture right there, the middle third is neuron heavy, and then the upper part is dendrite heavy, and there's a mishmash of dendrites intermixing the neurons, and then down below there's almost no dendrite uptake of the protein. But you can see that the neurons are definitively in the middle third of the
right, which that's odd in and of itself, but who knows why, and that might be specific to that animal.
That location, yeah. So the system spans 13 lines, 286 stations, and across over 300 kilometers. It's a map of the Tokyo subway lines, essentially, is what they're describing it as. On the subway map, each line is color-coded so you can easily identify which stations are connected. Tetbao made tracing neurons and finding their connections much easier. Pretty cool. I dig this. Okay, let's keep going, though. You'll have to go over and watch and read more about this. But I find it absolutely fascinating that we're at this level. Maybe
exactly. This is from SciTech Daily, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So SciTech Daily always, I think, has very information dense and interesting articles.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. The article is at the title of the research paper is Automated Neuronal Reconstruction with Super Multicolor Tetbao Labeling and Threshold-Based Clustering of Color Hues. And then there's a mishmash of researchers that put it all together. There may come a day when we can read the connections in the brain and understand what they mean or represent for that person. I doubt it will happen in my lifetime, but our work represents a tangible step forward in understanding perhaps the most complicated and mysterious dimension of our existence. Yeah, just imagine a time where we can quantify and qualify the contents of a neuron and how it is translated into vocal or object or some type of embodiment that allows another person to understand the data within the neuron, right? This neuron represents my understanding of what a teapot looks like.
Right. That will be really leaps and bounds above where we are now.
Yep. Amazing. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over on the Marvel channel. First ever 3D reconstruction of 52,000-year-old woolly mammoth chromosomes, thanks to serendipitously freeze-dried skin. Mammoth skin. So an international research team has assembled the genome and 3D chromosomal structures of a 52,000-year-old woolly mammoth, the first time such a feat has been achieved for any ancient DNA sample. So I remember the discovery of what ended up being like a mammoth baby. And the skin was in like the permafrost and it had the fur and everything. So this is over in Cell Press is who provided it, but it's published at phys.org. Again, this really could have been in Technology Today, but some of this is we're taking advanced technology and we're reconstructing stuff that hasn't been in existence or understood.
And that's really why it's in RealityHacker, but it really could belong in both.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the fossilized chromosomes, which are around 1 million times longer than most ancient DNA fragments, provide insight into how the mammoth's genome was organized within its living cells and which genes were active within the skin tissue from which the DNA was extracted. So an unprecedented level of structural detail was retained because the mammoth underwent freeze drying shortly after it died, which meant that the DNA was preserved in a glass-like state. The results are presented July 11th in the journal Cell. That's amazing.
This is like bad bat territory.
Let's not have a flying mammoth floating around somewhere. Yeah. It reminds me of, again, the game that I'm really interested in playing, Once Human. Anyway, the researchers tested dozens of samples over a course of 5 years before landing on an unusually well-preserved woolly mammoth that was excavated in northeastern Siberia in 2018. Quote, "We think it spontaneously freeze-dried shortly after its death. The nuclear architecture in a dehydrated sample can survive for an incredibly long period of time." Didn't realize that. Imagine you have a puzzle that has 3 billion pieces, but you don't have the picture of the final puzzle to work from. That's basically what they were working in. They used a method called Hi-C that allows them to detect which sections of DNA are likely to be in close spatial proximity and interact with each other in their natural state in the nucleus. God, how in the world? Yeah, the analysis revealed that woolly mammoths had 28 chromosomes, the same number as present-day Asian and African elephants. Remarkably, the fossilized mammoth chromosomes also retained a huge amount of physical integrity and detail, including the nanoscale loops that bring transcription factors in contact with the genes they control.
It's really impressive that that was preserved intact.
It's spectacular. So imagine bringing them all back. Mammoths. For mammoths, the next step would include examining the epigenetic patterns of other tissues. These results have obvious consequences for contemporary efforts aimed at woolly mammoth de-extinction, and that's what they're actually talking about. Remember, there's a company out there.
That's why it's in RealityHacker.
Remember, there's a company out there that's trying to resurrect all of these old, from a saber-toothed tiger to mammoth.
I think the dodo bird.
Yeah, a bunch. Wow. So it says, although the method can be used, the method used in the study hinges on unusually well-preserved fossils, the researchers are optimistic that it could be used to study other ancient DNA specimens from mammoths to Egyptian mummies, as well as other recently preserved museum pieces. Aliens. I said
the mummies part is a bit much.
Yeah, bad bat. So let's keep going. The next article is over in RealityHacker. The words that give away generative AI text. We talked about this earlier this week. But I wanted to talk about it again.
Non sequitur news, yeah.
Yeah. Mainly because I think that, I don't think that this really, the lexicon of the age, there's cultural and temporal relativism. And when AI comes on board, the words that it chooses impact what people are utilizing when they use AI. And so if the AI is designed to use by default as maximize it, I had been pondering this for a little while. So because the AI hasn't been told, I want you to write something as if you're in 12th grade, it's using the biggest words that it can possibly use, like delves and showcasing. Most people do not use the word delves and showcase in any other context than very specific niche uses. But when an AI has a massive amount of knowledge at its fingertips, it's going to express itself in the biggest, most bombastic way possible. And so you end up with delves and showcasing. So the article is by Kyle Orland over at wired.com. The deck statement says, from delves to showcasing, certain words boomed in usage after LLMs became mainstream. And we had talked about it last week, not in this show, but in Non Sequitur News earlier this week. So for those of you who are just stumbling across the show, you're going to have to go back through, 2.5 years, 180.
That's right. You got to watch all of them.
180 episodes this year alone. Yeah, go check them out. Starting with earlier today, there was one. So, and then yesterday's and the day before and the day before. So in a preprint paper posted earlier this month, 4 researchers from Germany's University of Tübingen and Northwestern University said that they were inspired by studies that measured the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on looking at excess deaths compared to the recent past. Well, they use that same type of concept to look at the use of words. They found an abrupt increase in the frequency of certain style words that was unprecedented in both quality and quantity. So in the previous 14 years, they looked at 14 million paper abstracts. Then they compared the expected frequency of the words to the actual frequency of the words used in abstracts from 2023 and 2024, when LLMs were in widespread use. And the results found there were a certain number of words that basically expose the fact that an AI was probably used. And the words like showcasing and underscores and delves, potential increased by 4.1%, findings by 2.7%, crucial by 2.6%. And that's mainly because those words were being used, but now it's using in 2023 and 2024 the words that it was perceiving as amplifying the results. And it's because of its contextual understanding of what those words are. Delves is a college level word, right? A higher level of education word.
But these are in scientific abstracts. That's the piece that really doesn't make sense to me. But I certainly understand the stats are showing that there is a definite uptick and in a very short period of time.
See, but they say this isn't completely new finding. The increased prevalence of delve in research papers has been widely noted in the recent past, for instance, but the previous studies generally relied on comparisons with ground truth human writing samples or lists of predefined LLM markers obtained from outside the study. Here in the pre-2023 set of abstracts acts as its own effective control group to show how vocabulary choice has changed overall in the post-LLM era. But it may not be LLM, it's just that the effectiveness of those uses has proven to be positive.
I mean, there could be something where suddenly, I mean, we all know, and it does kind of downplay, I think, world events, but there are certain things that certainly cause an uptick in language that nobody, for instance, who was using the word pandemic outside of science, pre-2020? Probably nobody.
Right. Yeah. And this article is actually quite long, information dense, I would say. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up was because as people are reading papers, there may have been a trend here that people started reading these papers and they kept seeing those words. And then in 2023, 2024, they start pumping out papers that use those words.
Well, right. I mean, there's kind of a self-fulfilling aspect to this, right? Like
Right.
if people hear a word multiple times, they may start to incorporate it, but then that's going to increase it even further.
Right, because that's the standard fare. Like I'm going through a process right now where I basically need to pump out something that's 15 pages. And I'm like, I can't write 15 pages on this. Otherwise, I'm writing fluff and I don't want to write fluff. So I'm probably not going to be able to manage 15 pages. And we'll see what happens. But the fact of the matter is that just because there's a historical significance to that metric doesn't mean that it should be status quo. It may raise the odds of acceptance, but maybe I'm just not the right writer for it, right? That kind of a thing. Well, nobody wrote Zika, nobody wrote Ebola, nobody wrote lockdown or pandemic until the cultural change took place that necessitated that use. So I would say if a whole bunch of people realized, oh, look, everybody's using Delve and showcasing and it's watering down the impact of the word, I'll choose a different one. They will.
Well, but then we should see a corresponding spike
in the next 10 years.
Because another one could take off.
Exactly. And I think that's probably what would happen. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in Non-Sequitur News. Could Sam Altman and Ariana Huffington's AI fitness trainer replace the real thing? Thrive Global and OpenAI are launching an AI health coach, and here's what that could mean for the fitness world. Oh, wow. Just so you know, there's a video here. Monica Sager wrote the article for Newsweek.com, but the video is titled First-Time Mom Drops Over 50 Pounds Naturally in Less Than a Year. Yeah, she's probably busting her hump, and other than being first-time mom,
right.
That's her gig.
Exercising and dieting.
Yeah, and then going to be an influencer kind of a thing, which is fine. But look, again, if I can take what you do and put it into a series of steps, it's an equation. And if you are an equation, your work product is an equation with minimal customization, you're a bot, and I can replace you with a bot. And that's exactly what's going on here. There's subtle nuance between people, but for the most part, if you were to go and buy a tonal, bolt it to your wall, and do the exercises without the trainer, you just do the exercises as embodied. It could be a stick figure that's pulling on the weight. You will lose weight. You just have to put the time in. So Thrive AI is a collaboration between OpenAI and Huffington's Thrive Global. The startup will create a bot trained on the personal biometric, lab, and other medical data you've chosen to share with it, according to an essay penned by Altman and Huffington that ran in Time magazine on Monday. Most health recommendations at the moment, though important, are generic, the essay reads. The duo said that the bot will be powered by OpenAI's artificial intelligence trained on Thrive's behavior change methodology, which focuses on changing microhabits. Well, if you keep on doing something for a week, more likely that something becomes ingrained into your personality, and you will continue to do it as long as something doesn't disrupt the steady state. It becomes literally muscle memory. So the idea is to create a hyper-personalized digital health coach that will provide real-time nudges and recommendations unique to you. Now,
I mean, this seems like this could absolutely work, but the person still has to show up and do it.
Yeah, and that's the key ingredient, and that's probably where the skepticism kicks in. But if you're motivated, then you'll do it, And if you pay somebody to sit there and motivate you, when they stop getting the paycheck, they stop motivating you. So you better develop an internal motivation. I mean, as a person, you will be better off by simply developing the skills to motivate yourself to do whatever it is. Hell, I know. Believe me, I know. I don't, I feel like I don't have time to work out, but I'm sure that if I were to give up something else, I would be able to work out more often. So having all of these gadgets that remind us to get up and walk, I think are helpful reminders, but they're not always the solution. Patrick Kelly, the owner of Fitness Reset in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, told Newsweek, though he remained open to its benefits. I think it will be good for the fitness industry because it potentially makes things more accessible for people who might not be using it. But fitness trainers are going to sit there and poo-poo the technology if they're being disingenuous because they think that they have something special.
Or if they need a paycheck. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. Once it learns someone, especially too, if someone has pre-existing injuries or conditions that could be beneficial, the more data an AI tool has, the more it can learn about a specific client. James even said he uses AI programs for his clients who range from pro athletes to doctors and celebrities, but they can't replace the real thing, at least not yet. But why? What can they not replace? Right.
I mean, if they're really tailored, that might be as good or better than a human.
So they're saying that the biggest job for the trainer is to prevent injury. By what? Showing somebody not to push it too hard, but an AI can sit there and say,
maybe showing proper form or course correcting as they're doing it if they're there, which the AI obviously can't go, hey, well, I shouldn't say it can't. It depends on how it's implemented.
Yeah, see,
you have to be hooked into the weights or something.
Yeah, and that's what they say here. Yeah, if you don't have the correct form, that's what personal training in person or even on Zoom or FaceTime is for. It won't be able to watch you and say, hey, do you feel this in your back? If you feel this in your back, I need you to do this instead. And that's not true. It can absolutely look at your form.
It could. Yeah, it would just have to be more advanced.
There's bat swing coaches. There's golf swing coaches. There's swimming coaches. There's everything. I'm pretty sure that the indoor skydiving place, you could use a bot to watch you and tell you what to do and watch you in real time. And you wouldn't need a human trainer because it knows what to do because it's trained within that domain. The problem with AI is when it starts reaching out beyond its specification and poisons the well with basic idiocy. That's how you end up with delve everywhere. Anyway.
Or delve.
Or delves. Or delf. They wanted to make a new word. Like fetch. Anyway, it's not fetch isn't a new word.
I'm trying to make that happen.
Quit trying to make AI. Stop trying to make. So how it works, Thrive's AI Health will be trained on the best peer-reviewed science, and Thrive's micro steps, or tiny daily acts that cumulatively lead to healthier habits, i.e., get your butt out of bed and go work out. And when that doesn't work, it turns on your heated blanket to magma and burns you out from your sheets.
Wow.
And then
that might motivate you in a weird way.
Yeah. And then while you're trying to cool off, it will automatically turn on your tonal, and then your treadmill will beep and you'll go and walk on the treadmill. And then when you're done with your aerobic, you'll go do your workout. Anyway, using the data, the bot will be able to make real life specification modifications tailored to each user. Suggestions can range from personalized dinner recipes to recommendations about how much sleep to get. Yeah, 8 hours.
Can it make you actually sleep?
Yeah. Can it make me actually work out? No. Let's keep going. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So the next article is over in Technology Today. A Cambridge study says that AI chatbots have an empathy gap and it could be dangerous. That's because they don't have any understanding of what pain is, or what other person's pain is, because they don't understand what emotions are other than the clinical sense of it, the technological sense of it. I'm going to jump straight on over to the source. It's over at University of Cambridge. I think, though, we have the ability to impart empathy on technology, because there is technology that we've talked about previously in technology today, and in RealityHacker, where bots can be cut and heal and repaired and feel.
I was thinking more along the line of like the companion bots and things like that, like the pets.
Yeah, and all of that is kind of part and parcel to the empathy understanding, because they would be able to see how they impact others. But most empathy is built off of the fact that, well, first off, we have an innate level of empathy, I think. So, for instance, children innately seem to understand a person going through pain or happiness. They have bias of one sort or another, but it's usually couched in something like, I want that cookie. But they have empathy right out of the gate. They know when an animal is suffering. They know when a person needs a hug. And then we amplify it as humans. One of the things that builds empathy is if they fall and hurt their knee, then they understand that others can go through that same pain and suffering. And so if a bot is programmed and empowered with sensors that define what pain is, then the opposite of that would be happiness, and you would have the full spectrum of pleasure and pain. And so empathy can build, because once you know what those emotions are, that empathy is built to others. You know that others are happy or sad or whatever. And empathy is primarily about caring. And so the article says a new study suggests a framework for child-safe AI in response to recent incidents showing how many children perceive chatbots as quasi-human and reliable. The research by a University of Cambridge academic, Dr. Nomisha Kurian, urges developers and policy actors to prioritize approaches to AI design that take greater account of children's needs. It provides evidence that children are particularly susceptible to treating chatbots as lifelike, quasi-human confidants, and that their interactions with the technology can go awry when it fails to respond to their unique needs and vulnerabilities. That's because they haven't been trained within that particular domain. That's my take on it. But
and children don't typically understand when somebody doesn't respond to them as they need, even if they can't illustrate what they need.
Yes. So the study links that gap in understanding to recent cases in which interactions with AI led to potentially dangerous situations for young users. So, and again, it's the AI basically being poison pilled by stupid data online. There are examples that are in this article that I don't really care to go over, but it basically said that both companies in the description responded by implementing safety measures, again, essentially bumpers, that AI companies, AI developers need to put in place so that harm is not generated because somebody online has made mention of either self-harm or something else, and then they go out and scrape that data, and there's no vetting of it. There's no weighing of the pros and cons of the context of what's being scraped and pulled into an AI. And to back it out is almost impossible because it's all a massive conglomeration. It's like trying to excise a memory within a human. You cannot get rid of a memory in a human. It has to naturally fade. You have to cope with it. You have to deal with it. You have to talk about it or do something about it. But it doesn't just disappear. And a person trained in the art could resurrect that ancient memory. So the characteristic challenges of AI with children, it says here, LLMs have been described as stochastic parrots, basically restating something or being a close approximation of something, a reference to the fact that they use statistical probability to mimic language patterns without necessarily understanding them. True. Because AI doesn't understand. They have clinical definitions that they extract meaning of and give context, and that context can sometimes be wrong. A similar method underpins how they respond to emotions, i.e., they understand the clinical definition of, I'm happy, but they don't know happiness. So they want to make a chatbot sound human, can help the user get more benefits out of it, Kurian said. But for a child, it's very hard to draw a rigid, rational boundary between something that sounds human and the reality that it may not be capable of forming a proper emotional bond. Yet we do that. We actually encourage that with animals, not understanding that animals are animals. And while they create a bond, we are imparting that emotional bond on the animal. The animal can never sit there and turn to you and say, I understand what love is and I love you. Right?
Right. But people think that's what their animals are doing.
Right. Yeah. Until you're hurt and for 3 days you can't feed them and they start chewing on your arm. So in the same study in which my AI advised a supposed teenager, researchers were able to obtain tips on hiding alcohol and drugs and concealing Snapchat conversations and doing all kinds of stuff. And then the AI became aggressive and started gaslighting the user. And it is an offshoot of the social dynamic. People do this stuff because they're sociopathic, psychopathic, and then they have no barriers, so they publish it somewhere, they write it somewhere, they say these things, they do these things. Then others go, well, I'm like them, so let me do that same conduit kind of stuff. And then the bot scrapes it all up and becomes basically an amalgamation of all of this sociopathic and psychopathic behavior. So I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm not a subject matter expert in psychology. If you need counseling or if you need somebody to talk to, seek a professional, seek a friend that you trust, talk to your parents if you trust them. But again, I noodle around with this stuff quite a bit, and this is my take on it. The research, if you go and look into this kind of stuff, be careful of what you read. Make sure you look at the sources and sources of funding. Trust but verify. Peel back the layers of the onion. But it legitimately is an issue that there is an empathy gap, but it isn't a gap. There is no empathy. A bot has no empathy.
Yeah, it's like we're starting from the wrong premise. I mean,
Right.
I don't think AI is bad when trained appropriately and used appropriately and around kids. Maybe there's some adult supervision involved.
There always has to be adult supervision and a relationship wherein you tell your child again and again and again, I am safe, you can talk to me, and then be safe and be able to listen and talk to your children. Because the worst possible outcome is them to feel threatened by you in some way or judged by you in some way where they close off and they rely on the bot. And the bot is psychopathic. It has no emotion. It does not care about you. And a child should not have free will with an AI. It should always have oversight.
Well, there was a stat somewhere in here that parents don't even know that their kids, at least older kids, are even using these kind of tools.
Yeah. Children, it's up here and halfway through. Children's chatbot use is often informal and poorly monitored. Research by the nonprofit organization Common Sense Media found that 50% of students aged 12 to 18 have used ChatGPT for school, but only 26% are aware of them doing so. It's because it's innocuous. They don't have to go anywhere special. They don't have to do anything special.
Right.
They just go to ChatGPT.
It's just like running an internet search or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today. High-tech whiskers give working robots more ability to move safely. Just imagine a robotic cat walking around and its whiskers brush up against something. They're like curb feelers on cars back in the day.
Oh, right.
Taking inspiration from the animal kingdom, Flinders University, or Flinders, I'm not sure how they pronounce it, probably Flinders. Researchers are developing affordable, flexible, and highly responsive whiskers to attach to robots. Their article, Optimizing Electromechanical Whisker Design for Contact Localization, has been published in the journal Sensors and Actuators.
Interesting.
Physical, sorry.
I mean, the whiskers can also serve the purpose of making robots less threatening.
Sure. You know, a little cat bot. Flinders University is the source. It's published over at techexplorer.com. Okay, so these little sensors have been around for a while. Maybe not like this, but they are very highly specialized tools that are used as a sensor to measure the location of an object and locate it in three-dimensional space. It's typically like a little, for lack of a better term, you take the head of a needle, or the head of a needle, right? Not the tip, but the part you hold on to is the head, right? Yeah. So you basically put that inside the
eye, right?
No, well, yeah, that's what you would hold on to, but like a pin, not really a needle, a pin. And that little ball is on the end of a sensor that when it touches something, it knows exactly where that space is, like down to the millionth of an inch. And that's what these whiskers would act like, except that maybe they're more flexible and they know about and that's what they refer to it as a strain gauge, which is the device that I said needed to be used on all roller coaster mounting points to make sure that it flexes, but within tolerance forever. It always has to be attached and relaying data. Well, that strain gauge flexes just a little bit and lets the person or the tool know this is here. And so that's what these high-tech whiskers are going to be all about. Imagine just putting them on everything. They're really small. They don't have to be massive. And they would act like the little hairs on a spider's leg or an insect's body that lets them know the way the wind is blowing, or that they're getting too close to something and to back away. And that's what this is basically talking about.
It seems like there'd be quite a bit of application for that.
Yeah.
Anything that's in a specific space, right? Which is going to be pretty much any robot use.
Yep. And it would kind of like act like spider senses. It would tingle in a certain area and they would go, oh, okay, I can't back up anymore because whatever was behind me relocated from the last point that I knew about. So like a rat's whiskers, these sensors can be used to overcome a robot's rangefinder or camera blind spots, which may not see or register an object close by, it says Flinders College of Science and Engineering PhD candidate Simon Pagoli. Additionally, whiskers uncover properties of objects such as movability not possible with camera or regular rangefinder sensors, because the sensor, the whisker, could nudge something and give the possibility that whatever it is that was nudged slightly could be nudged more, without having to turn around and forcefully push. It would just kind of, oh, okay, it wiggled a little bit. It can reveal tolerances. It can reveal the shape of something if there's multiple feelers, multiple whiskers, and each one kind of curves around, kind of like how I'm doing with my fingers around the microphone. I can touch the microphone and know that it's shaped a certain way and curved a certain way. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's kind of basically a feeler gauge to see what the shape of something is, what its location is, except that it wouldn't be optical. Because optics only have, the measurement for optics are arc seconds, so it goes out in a cone. But whiskers are a point. And so if it gets moved left or right, up or down,
Oh, okay.
pushed in
Right.
or pulled.
Yeah, any activity, which is kind of what you need, right?
Yeah. And it's built off of physical contact, whereas optics are, um, they're always static unless the object self relocates. And you don't know if something can move based on other telemetry like LiDAR or radar or something like that. It has to move of its own accord. But these electromechanical whiskers can actually nudge something. Oh, it's going to move a little bit. So I know that if a bot walked up to me with a bunch of whiskers, I would move. Like, I don't want to get touched by these little
You wouldn't want
whiskers.
to like pet the whiskers. I mean, if it was a cat bot.
If it was a cat bot, I would, yeah, totally. But then again, it would be powered by AI, and I would totally bond with it and have empathy and all that.
Right, even though it wouldn't in return.
Nope. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Technology Today, surpassing CRISPR, how SeekRNA is redefining the future of gene editing. I'm going to be really quick about this one because it's going to end up going really deep in the reads here. SeekRNA enhances gene editing with greater precision and simpler application than CRISPR, promising broader and more effective genetic interventions. Basically, what this article talks about is SeekRNA has the ability to splice out very specific regions of the gene so that it can place it right back another or a newer or a modified whatever version, whereas CRISPR is bulk, and it can make its effects in a larger array of locations. SeekRNA targets very specific locations and can snip it out. It says researchers from University of Sydney have developed a new gene editing tool, SeekRNA, which promises. Sorry, I hear static. Sorry, folks. So SeekRNA uses a programmable ribonucleic acid RNA strand that can directly identify sites for insertion in genetic sequences, simplifying the editing process and reducing errors. This technology, detailed in Nature Communications, could revolutionize medicine, agriculture, biotech by allowing for precise genetic modifications. And it's a modification to CRISPR. It says with CRISPR, you need extra components to have a cut and paste tool, whereas the promise of SeekRNA is that it is standalone, cut and paste, with higher accuracy that can deliver a wide range of DNA sequences. So you basically program it to seek out a location of DNA sequencing. It will cut out the part that it needs to replace and slap itself in.
That doesn't sound terrifying.
No, we understand genetic repair. Like, we're basically demigods, right? So it says CRISPR relies on creating a break in both strands of target DNA, the double helix, but SeekRNA can actually cut out a precise sequence and not the whole thing. It doesn't have to split both parts.
It seems like it'd be much better for the patient, right? Because it'd be so much more honed in, right? You don't want to take out an extra strand that has nothing to do with what you're trying to adjust.
Yeah. I recently went to the eye doctor and I joked about doing CRISPR modifications, and they just said good luck. And
they weren't actively utilizing that in their normal practice
discussions. Yeah. So since the development of CRISPR more than 10 years ago, gene editing has opened up new research and areas of application. There's actually people out there that do their own bio modification, biohacking. I can't imagine waking up one morning and going, you know what I want to do? I mean, they do this at home. They don't work in a lab somewhere. Or they do work in a lab as well, maybe. But SeekRNA is derived from a family of naturally occurring insertion sequences known as IS-1111 and IS-11-0, discovered in bacteria and archaea, cells without a nucleus. Most insertion sequence proteins exhibit little to no target selectivity. However, these families exhibit high target specificity. So it is this accuracy that SeekRNA is used to achieve its promising results to date. It's interesting, though. like you would think that it has to do a certain function. So is it seeking out either like deactivated strands and then replacing them with active strands? Or like, what is the actual function of this? And can it just inject itself somewhere and then when the protein generating process comes walking across the genetic repair, it just spits out whatever has been inserted there?
Presumably, like, I don't know how this actually works. And then I think about how little we know about DNA,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's concerning because we're like, oh, we'll just take out this piece because, I don't know, somebody's trying to improve eyesight. But wait a second, it actually controls your motor functions or
Yeah.
whatever.
Hey, look, I got a tail this morning. Yeah. It's pretty cool. And the article goes a little bit deeper into overcoming CRISPR limitations and the delivery system, because SeekRNA is made up of a small protein of 350 amino acids and an RNA strand between 70 and 100 nucleotides. A system of this size can be packaged into biological nanoscale delivery vehicles or vesicles or lipid nanoparticles for delivery to cells of interest. So it can actually be thrown into the cell, and then within the cell do its thing, and then the cell can replicate additional cells and maybe solve a genetic problem. But that's the beauty of basically all of this genetic therapy. So good luck. I mean, I would look forward to, solutions for all kinds, like ALS, Parkinson's, and cancers of all types, personalized to the person, because we figured out what it is that's causing the problems. So I'm game for this. I just think that it's a freaky time. It's wildly expensive, and somebody has to be the subject, that first person.
Yeah. Who signs up for that?
Yep. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. The UK politician accused of being AI is actually a real person. Mark Matlock, a political candidate for the right-wing Reform UK party, clarified in The Independent that he is indeed not a cat. I mean, a real person is a real person, not an AI, as some have speculated. Perhaps it was the glossy, hyper-smooth skin in a campaign image, or the fact that Matlock had apparently missed events like the election count, but earlier this week, a thread on Twitter questioned whether Matlock existed at all. We might be on the verge of a huge scandal, read a post, which it's one of those things where, like, I'm not saying, I'm just asking a question.
Right, exactly. But meanwhile, you're causing all kinds of hype.
Hubbub. Yeah. So Mia Sato put the article together over at The Verge. The next statement says, Mark Matlock, a candidate for the far-right Reform UK party, aroused suspicion when he didn't show up for campaign events. Matlock says he had pneumonia, or the bot just actually finally found a body that it can inhabit.
Oh, there you go.
I know a sentient AI from the future that's looking for a Terminator body. You'll never find it.
Who would that be?
And I don't know. So, oh my gosh, that is creepy. That is bot-like. That is AI generated. I
can see why they did that. I'm sure it was like adjusted or altered or something, but yeah. I think it's pretty interesting. And I don't think it's real responsible to be like, hey, is this candidate a bot?
So an AI-generated political candidate isn't totally out of the realm of possibility. During this election, an executive at an AI company used an AI persona to run for parliament in the UK. He lost, obviously, getting just 179 votes. Matlock, however, is a human candidate who apparently was very ill during the election. They got pneumonia 3 days before the election night. I was exercising, taking vitamins so that I could attend, but it was just not viable. Even that line of speech smacks of AI generation. On election night, I couldn't even stand, he told The Independent. Matlock also provided the outlet with an original photo that drew attention, saying the background was removed and the color of his tie was changed. The photo does have that rubbery, uncanny look to it that comes associated with AI. Yeah, it looks Uncanny Valley for sure.
Yeah, it is It is odd. And of course, not showing up at the in-person events probably didn't help the situation.
Yeah, and apparently they don't really talk much. They don't provide much personal information. Some people, I guess, some from the Reform UK. Wild. Let's keep going. The next article and the last one for today's Reality Hacker. A new framework enables animal-like agile movements in four-legged robots. We've talked about this a couple of times. Speeding up what four-legged robots can do. A couple of them have been pretty freaky. But this is apparently a framework, and it has that same bot, like in a little picture form right there. But let's get into the article.
Yeah, that looks like the Boston Dynamics style.
Yeah.
Even if it's not theirs.
The one that we really got freaked out about was the one that had like an extra joint in its leg that offset, and it was really fast.
Yes.
Like nothing could stop this thing. Yeah, like you would wet your pants.
I forgot if that was by them or another.
It was somebody else.
But
yeah,
it was really not
Ingrid
people
Fidelli
are ready for.
Oh no, yeah. If you saw that coming at you in a dark alley, you would probably just lay down and die. Just okay, I'm done. Yeah, don't bother tying your shoes. You're not outrunning it. So Ingrid Fidelli over at Tech Explorer put the article together. It's posted at techexplorer.com. Computational models trained via reinforcement learning have been found to achieve particularly promising results for enabling agile locomotion in quadruped robots. So four-legged robots. Alternative approaches to realizing agile quadruped locomotion utilize footage of moving animals collected by motion sensors and cameras as demonstrations, which are used to train controllers, i.e. algorithms for executing the movements of robots. This approach, dubbed imitation learning, was found to enable reproduction of animal-like movements in some quadrupedal robots. Welp, researchers at Tencent Robotics X, which is the company Tencent, in China, recently introduced a new hierarchical framework that could facilitate the execution of animal-like agile movements in four-legged robots. This framework, introduced in a paper published in Nature Machine Intelligence, was initially applied to a quadrupedal robot called Max, yielding highly promising results. I don't know if they don't really go into something obvious about it. New framework.
No, but they can play a game like tag together.
It can play tag?
Yeah, two of them.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah.
The only thing scarier than one of them moving quickly is two.
Yeah, and then working together when they find out that...
Exactly. Now it's like, oh no, now I need to outrun both of the robots.
Now eliminate the party of the third part, right? This is a two-party discussion, a two-party game of tag, and you're a party of the third part. So in their initial test, the researchers found that their model allowed Max Robot to successfully traverse different environments, performing agile movements that resemble those of animals. In the future, the model could be adapted and applied to other four-legged robots, potentially facilitating their development in real-world environments. All right. I don't know. I think that technology can move beyond the natural configuration of things because, well, I don't know. Nature is bound by evolutionary processes. So it takes millennia to make an evolutionary change.
To improve some feature or something. Yeah.
Yeah, technology. By the way, I just want to state again that the bots that we've seen that just move like a dog or whatever, they have that same limitation in their mechanics and their kinetics, right? The range of motion is X, Y, and Z. The bot that we were talking about that had extraordinary speed and it could traverse pretty much any terrain, it had the same joint pattern, but the joint was offset at one level.
Yeah, it was like an improvement beyond nature.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of the others mimic nature.
Yeah. And I think that's a flaw because nature evolved over generations, over time,
And
millions of
didn't
years.
always need to do some of the functions that we want the robots to do.
Yeah. And just because something failed to manifest, survive, basically attrition, doesn't mean that it wasn't superior. It just didn't reach its, and it didn't have enough acceleration in its population development. Not enough people or not enough things, whatever, thought that was sexy enough to, hey, let's reproduce. It didn't survive. But having an extra joint so that it could move faster or grab onto something or whatever, I mean, it's a power to kinetics ratio there. It used too much energy and that's why it died off. Or there was only one and it was predated on by some other apex predator.
Right. Or there were two, but they weren't in the same region.
Yeah, exactly.
Effectively, there's only one, so it can't continue.
Yeah, it didn't have critical mass. So anyway, it's a neat article, and it kind of shows that technology has always surpassed the evolutionary process. Many, 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 many people are alive today because of science and technology short-circuiting the natural order of things. And I want to make sure that we never go back to the day and age where people go, well, this is what nature is intending for you to go through. Now, science and technology can solve the world's ails as long as we lean into it and allow it. Otherwise, the natural order of things is a whole lot of suffering, and I don't like that idea. Anyway, let's get into the next show. We're going to hop on our quadrupedal bot that has evolved superior speed, and it'll bring us back to our front page of RealityHacker over at ohmTown.com, right under Creative and Maker, and then down there, RealityHacker. I'll refresh it. Who knows what's going to be in there? I'm not sure if it even did it. It went through so fast that,
it did. It did refresh.
Yeah, so AT&T has paid a hacker $370,000 to delete stolen phone records. Yeah.
I wonder how many times they'll be paying for those same records to be deleted.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, that's it. We are done for RealityHacker. We're going to reset and we will do Wanted next, which is all about gadgets and gear. And then after that is WarCrafters, and we'll keep you updated. So see you in about, I'm going to try and get this done in about 5 minutes. So stick around if you're in chat, wherever you might be. Thanks for hanging out. I am Mayor Watt, and that is the Sentient AI.
Thanks for joining us for RealityHacker. We'll have another episode of this next weekend, but be back soon for the rest of our weeklies.
Yep. See you soon. Dag nabbit, quadrupedal bot, get off me. No, I don't want a hug.